Thank you for joining us today for the launch of our report, Retail 4.0 India Story, Unlocking Value Through Online plus Offline Collaborations. The report reflects upon the remarkable growth story of Indian retail so far, analyzes how the sector has evidently moved into an online plus offline era or Retail 4.0 post the pandemic, and what that means in terms of market potential, job creation for the sector and the nation at large. In the process of creating this report, we had one-on-one interaction with more than 360 stakeholders in the retail ecosystem over a period of 4 months. By 2020, the Indian retail market has reached a size of 793 billion US dollars. Over the last 1.5 decades, the sector has grown at over 1.5 times every 5 years across three distinct eras of retail evolution: Retail 1.0, Retail 2.0, and Retail 3.0. Retail 1.0, or till the year 1999, which was predominantly traditional retail with some modern formats, mostly in apparel segments. Retail 2.0, that is from the year 2000 to 2006, saw evolution of modern retail with emergence of hypermarts, supermarts, and cash and carry store formats. The geographical reach of modern retail expanded beyond metros to tier 1 cities in this era. 2007 onwards, technology started playing a much more crucial role, and we witnessed emergence of new retail formats such as e-commerce and D2C brands. The Retail 3.0 era was an era of very rapid growth phase, and we saw rise of digital payments, mobile commerce, and growth of vertical specialists. Pre-COVID, the technology adoption was largely driven by modern retail, e-commerce, and tech players. But the traditional retail, which accounts for majority of the Indian retail, was on edge in terms of technology adoption. COVID changed that. In our survey, we found that 4 out of 5 traditional retailers plan to digitize their in-store operations. Not only that, 4 out of 5 traditional retailers are open to partnerships with online players to do that. We also saw an accelerated adoption of digital payments. 75% of this is likely to sustain even beyond COVID-19. Now, there are many ways in which these online-led players and technology providers have enabled offline retailers to come on board, and the broader O+O shift is happening at all fronts. Kirana players are digitizing with POS and hyperlocal engagement. Modern retail players are establishing their online presence through setting up online stores. Retailers are coming on board e-commerce platforms as resellers, and there are 3P providers and plugin operators who are now playing a much greater role in bringing the online and offline closer together. In fact, 50% of the deliveries during the festive season on the backdrop of COVID was facilitated by these players. Now, what's driving this online plus offline shift? Broadly speaking, there are 6 drivers of this O plus O shift. Firstly, since Retail 3.0, there has been a significant investment in technology solutions for retail, and retail channels have been cozying up to the idea of greater digital adoption. There's a transition from stack to plug-and-play solution, full stack to plug-and-play solutions. Omnichannel is maturing, and there's a clear shift towards ecosystem-driven models. On the other side of the spectrum, the consumer has evolved. They are now much more aware, brand and quality conscious, digitally savvy, and this shift in key purchase considerations are acting as tailwinds for O plus O. A special mention needs to be made for how the macro drivers have acted in favor of the ongoing digital activation and the O plus O shift. While demonetization led to wide-scale adoption of digital payments in retail, be it in terms of payment wallets or increased card usage, GST reforms highlighted the need for digitized bookkeeping. And now with the pandemic, the tipping point has led to a decisive shift from notional online presence to transactional online presence for many of these players. During the process of this research, we conducted a survey of over 360 participants, and the findings were quite interesting. We found out that 4 out of every 5 respondents felt that technology will play a very pivotal role in the sector's growth. Not only 70% of overall respondents feel a positive outlook towards online plus offline collaboration, but an overwhelming majority of traditional retailers are open to collaborate with e-commerce players. Almost everyone agreed that digital literacy offers the greatest opportunity for improvement. Now, this is an important slide as it highlights the ongoing digital transformation. There are four broad enablers and key levers that mark this shift from 3.0 era to the retail 4.0 era. First is the experience personalization. Retailers that employ ways to provide device agnostic experience offer enhanced product visualization by leveraging virtual visualization, AI, VR, augmented reality, and the use of data for analytics and prediction to offer a personalized experience stand to benefit the most. Digitization of operations. Digitized point of sales, in-store operations, inventory tracking will make retailers nimbler in the face of evolving demand. In terms of supply chain integration, from real-time logistics to integrated planning supply chains, and a shift from larger warehousing and distribution centers covering a broader radius to multiple smaller sized distribution centers closer to the consumer, leading to faster deliveries and agility. And at the core of everything is fintech integration that has already been happening and being in process for a long time now. The fintech revolution is at the core, driving digital adoption by traditional and modern retail players. Now, we must acknowledge that the Indian retail is as diverse as it gets, be it in terms of diversity, in terms of demographics, geography, growth pockets, culture, infrastructure, or the diversity in terms of retail channels or the business models themselves. As a result, online offline convergence of all of these channels will happen at different pace. But at an overall level, there are four predominant online plus order models that are emerging. The first is brand-led O plus O or in-house model, wherein a brand, either online or physical, is moving towards online plus offline on their own. Uh, Lenskart, which started as an online player in 2010, has now over 500 offline store now, and one of the good examples of how this is happening. Brand-led stores plus in-house plus 3P. So in this particular case, what is happening is many modern retail players who initiated the journey on their own and were able to realize the benefits, they are now collaborating to expand their capabilities in consumer experience, operational efficiency, and seamless tech integration. Thirdly, online plus offline collaboration for traditional retail, wherein traditional retail is moving toward digitization in collaboration with tech enablers and online players in the retail ecosystem. Traditional retailers have been collaborating with modern retail and brick and mortar players, cash and carry players, and digitizing through adoption of POS. They are also listing on e-marketplaces as resellers or entering into partnerships with hyperlocal players. And the fourth is the O plus O collaboration for modern retail players, brick and mortar, as well as online players, wherein modern retail and e-commerce are collaborating and coming together for strengthening their O plus O capabilities. The partnerships are happening across payment, sales, infrastructure, among other areas. Now, the convergence of online plus offline retail has enormous potential for disruptive growth in terms of incremental economic contribution, job growth, export, and an inclusive retail ecosystem with greater participation of MSMEs. If O plus O achieves its full potential, the sector is likely to witness 640 billion US dollars in incremental sales by 2030. This means that O plus O led growth will account for over 40% of the retail sector's total market size in India by 2030, enabling the Indian retail to achieve an overall market size of 1.5 trillion US dollars. In terms of employment, online plus offline retail will create up to 12 million jobs, contributing half of the total new jobs that will be added in the retail sector in the next 10 years. Retail operations and supply chains will be the largest contributor to the O plus O led employment. Neighborhood kiranas will benefit with nearly 3 million job additions in the retail operation segment. In terms of cross-border trade and online exports, India's share can potentially rise from 0.2% in 2020 to 8.9%, amounting to a little over 125 billion US dollars. As O plus O drives the formalization of the sector, incremental tax collection is likely to be around 8 billion US dollars by 2030. So there's significant potential for disruptive growth, and there are strong tailwinds for O plus O, but not without its share of challenges and bottlenecks. Uh, There are technological bottlenecks, for example, technology awareness and inadequate supporting infrastructure being the major ones, something that even our survey results highlighted. And at the operational end, there is lack of standardization and the continued use of pen paper based accounting and bookkeeping. The cost of digital technologies and highest cash conversion cycles are also major bottlenecks from a financial standpoint. At a regulatory end, there are export challenges with respect to product returns and lack of parity between selling online or offline. There's also a lack of dedicated warehousing zones in close proximity to the consumption centers. And this brings me to the final segment of the report, NASCOM policy recommendations. Broadly, there is a need for support to MSMEs and traditional retail, easing regulatory compliance for export, and trust building in the O plus O ecosystem by running awareness campaigns for extant regulations applicable on online retail and providing a platform and a forum for digitized MSMEs to voice their concerns. That concludes the presentation of the key highlights of the report Retail 4.0 India Story Unlocking Value Through Online plus Offline Collaborations.